Rejected from Columbia, rejected from Brown, rejected from UC Berkeley, rejected from Dartmouth, rejected from Harvard, rejected from NYU, rejected from Princeton, and rejected from Yale. Oh, did I mention this student had a 4.03 GPA and a 1510 SAT?
This is a college app of the average smart kid that doesn't get into any top university. He applied to MIT, Harvard, Princeton, Columbia, Northeastern, Carnegie Mellon, Cornell, Rice, Penn, Boston University, Georgia Tech. He was waitlisted from BU and Northeastern and rejected everywhere else. Okay, we get the point. That first video in that montage that you saw had a 4.0 GPA, a 15 SAT, and 3 national research papers. The second one in that video won multiple national math competitions and raised 6 figures for their nonprofit. Most recently, there was a kid named Zach Yadagari that recently went viral for having a business that generated $30 million in revenue yearly. He also had a perfect GPA, a 35 ACT, only to get rejected from every top 20 university. And yet, this guy got into Harvard. That's Jared Kushner, by the way. Let's talk about unfair college rejections, shall we? You were told to check every box. Get the grades, nail the SAT, join the clubs. Lead them, win awards, volunteer, get volunteer hours, save the world, and all before you turned 18. And then you'll get into college, right? But I think we all know by now that that's not exactly true. Maybe it doesn't even matter how hard you work. What if some kids are going to get in no matter what? I think you know this by now, but every year there are thousands and thousands of kids that are qualified, that look amazing on paper, that have beautiful essays and have done really cool extracurriculars and are top of their class, that get told that they're not enough. Inevitably, they get a bunch of rejection letters in the mail. Meanwhile, somebody who played lacrosse and daddy got a couple connections and all of a sudden, you're at Yale. Now, of course, not to shit on you if you are at Yale playing lacrosse. But you know, at some point, you just gotta wonder, is there something fishy going on? Now, at this point, you might be wondering, well, yeah, there are a bunch of really weird things about the college application process that don't make sense. Why are they hiding so many things? And why does it seem all so secretive and that there's strings being pulled, whatever. And in this video, I'm going to show you that all of it was on purpose. And that top universities are a great way to gatekeep opportunities. Colleges love to throw the phrase holistic admissions around. You might have heard this already, but what does that actually mean? Holistic, wide-ranging, looking at every single component of your application to make a decision as to whether you'd be a good fit for the university or not. In other words, your grades matter as much as your SAT score, as they matter as much as your extracurriculars, as much as your essays, etc., etc. And yet, every year, you'll find a kid with the perfect application, a couple nonprofits, has a $1 million startup, perfect 1600 on the SAT, 20 AP courses, 5.78 GPA, and yet rejected from every top university. Matter of fact, this is a newsline that goes viral literally every single year. Not gonna say what race, I'm gonna say what race. Asian student with perfect SAT score gets rejected from every top university and goes on the news to complain about it. And then you got some kid that looks like he's dilly-dallying every summer that just magically happens to get into Harvard. What gives? Going back to this idea of holistic admissions, colleges love to say that because that basically means that they can accept or reject anybody that they want for any particular reason whatsoever. You can kind of think about it like this way. You're playing a game that has no rule book. Imagine basketball was holistic. There are no rules. You could win or lose depending on whatever the referee says. That's college admissions for you right now. Let's go back to Zach Yadagari. His Twitter post about his rejections got 30 million views, so clearly people care. He was rejected from Stanford, MIT, Harvard, Yale, Columbia, UPenn, Princeton, Duke, USC, among a bunch of other universities. The only schools that accepted him were Georgia Tech, UT, and Miami, which, by the way, those are really good schools. Not knocking those, and he is going to Miami. Obviously, people on Twitter had all sorts of opinions. His personal statement got even more views. It got 40 million impressions on Twitter. And this is for a variety of reasons. One person says that his personal statement indicates that you're a high probability to drop out, so they gave your spot to somebody that actually wants to graduate college. There's another person here who says that Zach might be in the position to say something like, what if they want to take the risk of being able to use my name in the future? But Brett from DJ says, bro, they have the names of presidents, world leaders, and Fortune 500 CEOs. The statement reveals you have a lot left to learn about the world, but you'll get there. Keep grinding. Basically told him to sit down, little bro. There's another person here who says that his essays were worse than the ones that rich parents pay to have written for their kids. Zach himself says that his main motivation for going to college is just to have a social life. So obviously people have all sorts of reasons reasons as to why they think that Zach didn't get in, why his application was weak, why he shouldn't have gone, why he should have gotten in. One former admissions officer on Twitter said that Zach's essay would have been better if he'd focused on struggles and humility rather than quantitative achievements, which is somewhat true. I am not gonna lie, his essay does come off as him being pompous, conceited, and not that fun of a guy to be around, if I'm gonna be honest. But here's a real question, right? Do you accept somebody who clearly has the talent to make it and to take advantage of whatever resources are given to him with no ifs, ands, or buts? Or do you consider some of the softer, more qualitative things that you might consider when deciding whether somebody should be at your institution for 4 years? Let's talk about the business model. First things first. Elite colleges are not meant to be about education. Not about intelligence, it's not about potential, it's about vibes, money, and exclusivity, in that order. The elite university badge is actually more similar nowadays to wearing a Birkin bag or driving a luxury vehicle rather than actually meaning anything about the education itself. The product that these universities sell is not knowledge. You can learn literally everything that Harvard teaches you for free through the internet. It's completely about prestige and status and power. Maybe you knew that already. Because come on, 3% acceptance rate? That looks sick. It's just human nature to like exclusivity. Oh yeah, I'm part of this club that only 3% of people get into. Makes you feel good, makes you feel wanted, makes you feel special. And nobody wants to feel more special than rich people. In theory, Harvard could make 10 times more money by expanding their campus 10 times bigger in possibly different areas of the world and collecting 10 times as many tuition checks. But the reason they don't do that, they make more money from the exclusivity and the donations that they get from the top 0.01% of the donors that make sure that it only stays that way, that their kids and that their kids' kids and that their kids' kids' kids remain at Harvard. And it's just an exclusive club. That's what it is. It's an exclusive club for these rich people. I mean, it's obvious at this point. The 57,000 kids that didn't get into Harvard, probably, maybe not all of them, but I want to say a good half of them probably would have been just fine at Harvard over the 3,000 that did get it. Let's take a look at this report. 2020 Harvard Crimson. 43% of white students admitted to Harvard were legacies, recruited athletes, children of faculty or staff, or donor related. 43%! Let's do some more math. Harvard's acceptance rate on paper is 3 to 4%, but let's say you're an average student at an average town, you're a hard worker, you get good grades, you're near the top of your class, your teachers think you're pretty smart, you worked really hard on the SAT, you got a 1500, took a bunch of AP courses, and you worked hard for your extracurriculars. You tried your best, you did what you could. You're a good overall student all around, but you're not a legacy, you're not an athlete, your parents aren't donors. So let's take away those categories, and we also have to take away the insane edge case folks like international math competition winner or something along the lines of did research that was able to help us cure cancer. And now you're looking at a number that's closer to maybe 0.5 or 1%, not the 3% that they market on the website. So, what are they looking for? Well, there's something really interesting a former admissions officer friend of mine told me about when they're reviewing applications and what they look for, and they place a not insignificant emphasis on how nice they think the kid is, how pleasant they'd be around campus, whether, this is the exact words of the admissions officer, whether they seem like somebody that they could crack a beer with. Think about it from another way. Yes, you want the really smart, talented kids that are cool on your campus, but does it really mean anything if they're all out? If your campus is just filled with people with massive egos, not particularly conducive to building a vibrant community. I think this really resonated with me during my time at Duke, and even before I went to Duke. I remember as a high school student touring these universities, not just Duke, but any top university, and talking to the students there was such a great experience. I'm just some random high school kid going up to somebody at one of these top universities. I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I wanted to ask some questions about what they liked about the university, what they thought about their time here, and they were all really nice. They were really receptive to answering questions. They were really hospitable. They were really open-minded about answering any sort of question I had. Yes, 90% of them had some deep-ass eye bags and looked depressed as hell, but hey, at least they were nice. But in the same vein, it is a bit of a tricky line, because how do you really determine whether somebody's nice from their college essay? It's 650 words. One person might think that you're a really ambitious, high-achieving person, and another person might think that you're an arrogant asshole. Even for me, when I applied, I had a 4.5 GPA, I had a 1590 SAT. My extracurriculars weren't anything that crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I did some gut microbiome research, didn't publish anything, nothing came out of it. I did some doctor shadowing. I was president of my Rotary Club, but that was it. And it's kind of crazy when I think back from when I applied 5 years ago, how much luck was actually involved with me getting into a school like Duke. Now, mind you, I didn't get into a single Ivy League. They all either rejected or waitlisted me. The process for how I got into Duke was because of one very particular admissions officer that read my particular admissions file, not anybody else's, but my particular file, who happened to read a very specific line in one of my Duke supplementals where I talked about wanting to do more about the sociological element of medicine, and him happening to think, oh, that sounds like a great fit for somebody at our university. Now, along those lines, if that specific admissions officer didn't read my specific file, or he happened to skim my essay to the point where he missed that specific line, I might have not gotten into Duke. And so it's kind of crazy how arbitrary these things are. Now let's talk about some scandals. Rick Singer, Operation Varsity Blues. You might have heard of it by now. Lloyd Laughlin, half of Wall Street, celebrities, CEOs. $1.5 million to fabricate your kid being an athlete, and boom, you got in. $1.5 million, it's all it took. If you didn't watch the Netflix documentary, I highly recommend you go watch it, because that doesn't even skim the very surface of what goes on when you're talking about acceptances into these top universities. There are estimates out there on Google or any other sources you want to take. Your average Ivy League starting point, 10 million for donos. You want a building named after you and pretty much guaranteed? 25 mil. You got an estimate for about 50 million to Stanford and 100 million to Harvard. Your kid's good to go. Let's go back to Jared Kushner from the beginning. Dude was average as fuck. Matter of fact, his application wasn't even that good, supposedly. But, you know, his dad, $2.5 million, just a nice little gesture. Absolutely nothing to do with his kid being a senior that year. While you're over here, 3 a.m., mid-October, cold sweats, rewriting your Common App essay for the 14th time, trying to figure out if you should write a metaphor or you should write a sob story. Not that you even have one that's interesting. Guess you should have just been born into a richer family. Okay, so what now? This is a part where you probably hope that there's something hopeful that I talk about in the video that makes you feel better and doesn't make you spiral and gives you hope for the future. Okay, so I'm gonna keep it real with you here. Yes, you can get it. Yes, you can turn your life around getting into one of these top universities. It is possible. It was possible for me. It's possible for you. But let's be honest. When a school says that they have a 4% acceptance rate for regular decision, it's not 4%. It's more like 2% after you take away all the specific subcases and whatnot. The other thing that I want to say is that the admissions process is a microcosm of the real world. It's unfair. Life is unfair. Oh, you didn't get into your dream school. The world is ending. You're a complete failure. Your parents don't love you anymore, and you don't deserve anything good in life anymore. Obviously not true. And I know you've probably been told this a million times already, but I'm gonna tell you again because this is my video, and you're not gonna click away and you're gonna listen to what I'm saying. Control what you can control. Did I mention that life is unfair already? So use that to your advantage. You might think that you might not have any unfair advantages, but you most definitely do. You just gotta figure out what they are. So go do things. Experiment, try a bunch of new eat stuff you've never eaten before, try things you've never done. You need to increase the exposure around your knowledge so that you can generate new ideas and find interesting things. Everybody's risk tolerance is a little bit different, but the one thing that I will say for everybody is that novelty is what makes life great. New things. You like a new phone, you like a new car, you like trying new foods sometimes here and there depending on how you feel. After you apply to college, that gets old really fast. Ask any college sophomore. Shit gets old real fast. It's not the end of the world. There's more to do. You lived 17 years, kid. You gotta live 5 more of those before you might even have a chance at dying. At this rate, with the current health advances, the admissions process is asking 40 people to select 3,000 out of a pool of 60,000. Shoot your shot, try your best, and then let it be. There's more to life than waiting around for colleges to come around to you. I'll be talking a lot more about this here, so if you want to listen, you know, maybe as you write your essays or, you know, have lunch or some I'll be here, because we got a lot more that we got to talk about, so.